Good morning. What an exciting Sunday. The sermon time is going to be a little bit different this morning. You're going to hear from me for a little bit, and then you're going to hear from Donna and Don for a little bit, and then you're going to hear from me again. So, if you get tired of my voice, hang in there. We'll have Donna and Don coming up soon. I want to jump right into Scripture today with the Scripture from 2 Timothy. As for me, I am already being poured out as a libation, and the time of my departure has come. I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I've kept the faith. From now on, there is reserved for me the crown of righteousness, which the Lord, the righteous judge, will give me on that day. And not only to me, but also to all who have longed for his appearing. In these words that are said to be written by Paul, but perhaps written by one of his contemporaries or colleagues, it echoes a life of faith. And the message that is being passed on here is clear. True and lasting satisfaction in life is found when we do our very best for God and for our neighbor. True satisfaction comes when we've given it everything that we've got. He says it this way: I've fought the good fight. I've finished the race. I have kept the faith. Isn't that what we all want to be able to say at the end of each and every day? When we lay our heads on the pillow, I have done my very best today. What about when we get to the end of a career? In Paul's case, the end of a life. To look back with a sense of contentment and say, no matter what blessing or what challenge was placed before me, I did my very best for my family, for my neighbor, and for my God. Now, there are probably a lot of factors that would go into this kind of contentment. But as I reflected on it, one of the biggest factors, I think, is that we've met what we see as our responsibility, or our sense of responsibilities, plural. There was a man who was interviewing for a job one time, and the interviewer said, in this job, we need somebody who is first and foremost responsible. Then I'm the one you need, said the man. Because every time something went wrong at my previous job, they said, you are the one that is responsible. Obviously, that's not what we're talking about. It does force us to reflect, though, to what and to whom are we responsible? Most of us think right away, probably, of family. What's my responsibility as a partner, as a parent, but also as a sibling, as a cousin, as a grandchild, for some of us, as a grandparent? Most of us would say that a big part of our responsibility is to provide an environment where our family will not just survive, but an environment where our family, our neighbor, our church community will grow and thrive. In this community of faith, as followers of Jesus, we know that we don't just stop with family. We feel that we have a responsibility to our neighbor, especially those who are vulnerable. And of course, we feel a profound responsibility to God, recognizing that God, however you view God, has made it all possible. God is the ground of our being. Biblical scholar Matt Skinner reflected on this scripture this way. He says, throughout the letter of 2 Timothy, Paul has been the example to imitate. But it has been God who has made such faithfulness possible. God made perseverance possible. The people that Timothy and Paul serve are not their own, but they are God's people. And so clearly, our responsibilities, our sphere of influence and responsibilities, are not just our responsibilities. They have a higher calling. It has a higher purpose. In a congregation where we say we practice peace, service, and openness to all, we don't do that just because it is our responsibility. We do it because it is our calling. There's something more than just responsibility as people of faith. We preach sermons that are challenging. We as pastors are risking our credentials, and similarly, Naomi is not guaranteed that vote at the district board because she and we dare to go to places that others might not feel because it is biblical. And in this case, in this time, it is prophetic. That's what inclusiveness and inclusion is all about. We do that not only because it is our responsibility, but because it is our calling, not just for the church of today, but for the church of tomorrow. Here at Elizabethtown Church of the Brethren, we stick our necks out, and we've done it for decades because it is our calling and our responsibility. This congregation has done brave things, not because they were easy, but because we were called. We speak peace in times of war. We provided sanctuary to the vulnerable. We moved from a smaller building on Washington Street because we wanted to double and triple the ministry that could be done here. We name very publicly our openness to all. We serve communities nearby and around the world with day-to-day needs as well as in times of disaster and for long-term stability and health. We serve because we are called. And we are embarking on a building project and a capital campaign to support that building project because, yes, we feel responsible, but we are also called. We feel the responsibility to God and those who came before us, who started this congregation once upon a time, and then moved from a very comfortable spot to a place that could double or triple ministry. What Jason didn't share with you during the children's time was that the vote to build this building was a very close one. It almost did not pass. It almost did not happen. This building was almost never built. But it was, and here we are, 60 years later. I'm sure that is a vote of affirmation. Here we are 60 years later, but maybe nothing better than a baby's cry to show us what they were hoping for when they built this building. And I'll tell you what, I never hear anybody say, gee, I sure wish we were back over on Washington Street. I wish we had never built this place. Do we have the audacity now to think about doubling or tripling our ministry? Actually, I said that poorly. Do we have the responsibility to think about doubling or tripling our ministry? Do we have a calling to double or triple our ministry? Can you imagine the number of service hours if we doubled or tripled our ministry? Can you imagine the witness to the world? Can you imagine outreach donations doubled and tripled? Can you imagine multiplying the ministry, the number of people who are served in and out of this building every single day by twice or three times or even more? Can you imagine how many more lives would be changed in that ministry? Maybe not tomorrow or next year, but in the years and decades to come. They had no idea that one day they would be cramming 500 people into the sanctuary as happened in the 70s. Could the same happen again? we have a responsibility and a calling to think about the generations who will come after us. And I'll put it in a way that could be perceived a little harshly. I don't think it's a matter of whether we renovate and expand this building. I think it's a matter of whether we decide to do that in the here and now, or whether we pass that responsibility to the generations who come after us. Which will we choose? We have a portable classroom that's set up outside because we've run out of good space for adult classes to meet on a Sunday morning. We had 20 people plus their kids at our last welcome lunch with the pastors. Now, what that means is that's the first step, and the second step is usually the inquirers class that Pastor Pam mentioned this morning. If we see a similar rate from that lunch to that inquirers class, we will have the biggest inquirers class that we've had, certainly in my tenure here. And I don't know how many years you would need to go back to find one that will be as strong as we think this one will be. And our building will not be able to support this magnitude of growth. So, when we think about the things we're responsible for, let's think again about how we think about our kids. We don't think about success being, gee, I hope they survive. We think, no, I hope they grow. I hope they thrive. I want to close with a conversation that I had with a couple who's been part of this congregation for more than 4 decades. And this is a paraphrase, but this is basically what they said as they were sharing with me about their campaign pledge. They said, this congregation was a place of refuge for us some 45 years ago. It was a place of refuge for us, they said, because the gospel was being preached boldly and differently from what we were seeing in the world all around us. Eventually, it became our church home, and we raised our kids and our grandkids here. And we realized that we experienced this blessing because of the building that was here, that the people who came before us had built. And the more we talked about it, and the more we talked about the project, the more excited we became because we realized that it was not just an obligation for us to contribute, it was a blessing for us to contribute so that we can pass forward to generations that come after us who were just like we were 45 years ago. They want to finish the race strong. And this is where I pause and I hand it off to Donna and Don. Please come up.
Great.
Yeah,
Goes forward.
to the right here.
Okay.
Yep.
Donna, are you coming?
No.
Oh, we need a microphone.
Good morning. Or you need a mic.
I do.
You can do it.
It disappeared. Thank you very much. Okay, we are very glad to be here with us this morning. And Don, you and I meet again. Now, you must realize we have met again and again and again, but we meet again.
Yeah, but we never met up like this before, and I must say I'm not sure what to do. We want to do the big reveal.
Yes.
But should we just do it now, or wait to
Don,
the very
Don.
end, or in the middle?
Don,
See,
be patient. It's coming.
It's hard for I get flustered like this. So
well, everybody knows I'm an
why don't you
incredibly patient person.
What?
So just ask Jim. He's right
Well,
there.
just do it. Let's get started.
Okay, we'll get started. We have had a very interesting journey, Don and myself and the Capital Campaign team. We have contacted, in the last 6 months, 311 plus homes. We have sent out mailings of over 900. A lot of those mailings introduced the program and then later explained the program. We've published a brochure that I'm hoping every single one of you have had access to. And that brochure explained our story, who we are and who we want to be in the future. We have made 300 phone calls plus.
This was the whole team, not just
This
you
is
and me.
the whole team, not just Don and myself. 150 home visits are just about completed. And if you have not had one and would like one, we're the people to see, or Jeff Eisenbeiss. Dozens of thank you cards have been sent for people's commitments. And I think I've reached the number 100 that I have written to people as thank yous for their commitments. We've used dozens of volunteers, everything from putting stamps on envelopes to making some phone calls for people out of the area. We've used thousands of volunteer hours put in by the Capital Campaign Team, the Events Committee, and the Home Visiting Team.
We, to date, have received 95 commitment forms from people that have indicated they will give a one-time gift or a gift that will spread over 2 or 3 or 4 years, and we're very happy about that. In addition, we've received 10 gifts in the offering designated to the Capital Campaign without a commitment form. And this morning, we got another one of those I learned about, so we're up to 11 and 106 total gifts and commitments.
And I want to interrupt you a moment. One of those gifts, I received a note with that gift, and that person said, I have not been a member of this congregation for many, many, many years, but this congregation influenced my life. He remembered when his father was tragically killed and how this congregation rallied to his family's needs. He remembered a time that this congregation led him into BVS and into a marriage. So we're hearing some interesting stories in the process.
So what we'd like to do is show you how the gifts have accumulated, and Josh is going to help us. We didn't practice this. So Josh, this is the total number of dollars that we have committed, either commitments or gifts.
Wait a moment. It's
Not
coming.
sure what's happening here. Whoop, whoop, whoop. The one in the middle.
There we
Yes.
go.
You guys. I think they did that. I think those guys were playing with this. We did not
Playing
have
with
that
us.
planned. But anyway, one of the things we've learned in this process is that people that advise congregations in raising funds often talk about the 2.5 rule or the 2.5 guideline or benchmark. And they say that a healthy congregation should be able to successfully raise 2.5 times their operational budget. For us, that would be $2 million, 2.5 times our operational budget. We have actually exceeded that by $1.2 million with our total now of $3.2 million, which is actually 4 times our operational budget. So that's something we're very happy about and very pleased to be able to report.
But now is the time for us to reach higher. Our goal, we need to work hard. We need to reach as high as we possibly can. Every gift counts, no matter if it's small or large. What is small for one person might be a very large gift. So we need to reach to continue our vision into our ministry. We invite you to pitch in. If you have been sitting on the fence, it's time to hop off that fence and join the campaign. Procrastinators need to act. If you have been thoughtful about this, it's time to come to a decision. So now is the time for us to all reach as high as we possibly can, to do our very best, to support the campaign with our prayers, our goodwill, our time, and our gifts. And now is the time for us to celebrate our generosity, to reach higher for the glory of God and for our neighbor's good. We have 8 weeks left to go. The campaign will close May 15th. If you have questions, we're the people that we'd like you to contact.
And they can contact us anytime, anywhere, correct?
Anytime, anywhere. I'm also going to throw in Nancy Hivner. She has a lot of good answers for things. And we have put a table at the back of the, in the Northex. If you have lost anything, the envelope that goes to John Miller, the commitment form, your brochure, your questions and answers packet, all of those things are located under the bulletin board. One thing we wanted to announce is that on March 31st, there will be a Fifth Sunday Forum in Fellowship Hall, and we will have a panel that consists of people from the Capital Campaign, from the board, and from the staff. There is a time that we look forward, what happens next, and that's a time that you bring a lot of questions to that table also.
And, whoops, sorry.
We're finished.
I hope you can reverse it.
No worries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Don and Donna. Let's give them a show of appreciation. The amount of work that they have put into this has been tremendous. It's been easy for me as someone who picked up Portuguese as a second language. Don and Dona mean boss in Portuguese, right? So it's been really easy for me to follow their orders. I want to leave you with a closing thought, because I think as we as the campaign leadership team have talked, we recognize that on one hand, $3.2 million at the halfway point in the campaign is wow. On the other hand, isn't our projected cost supposed to be $10.9 million? Wow. They asked me to share a story with you that I shared with them once upon a time, a few meetings back. And the moral of the story is this: if you set your sights high, if you set ambitious goals, if you're smart enough to know how to readjust those goals, and if you do your very best, if you fight the good fight and finish the race, you will have done a good thing. The story is this. A couple of years ago, I was asked to do a training in Colorado for Brethren Volunteer Service. I went out, and it was during the summer, and so Karen and I thought, boy, this would be really smart of us. And we could camp and hike. We love to camp and hike. So we did that. Karen flew out. We met at the airport. We went camping. And just literally up the road from where we were camping was a 14,000-foot peak, Mount Bierstadt it's called. And for those of you who may not know a lot about hiking and things, 14,000 feet here in North America is kind of the threshold, right? There are no peaks in the contiguous U.S. that get higher than in the 14,000s. And so we thought this would be really a nice accomplishment if we were to do that. And so we said, let's do it. And so here we are before the peak. That's the mountain in the back. It doesn't look like much from this perspective, but I'll tell you, it was. We started at about 10,500 feet, in elevation. And think about the oxygen level already. Your air's getting thinner. You can see in the background there that you have to kind of go through the willow bog that is down there. Hope not to run into any bears. Jump across a couple creeks. You don't want your feet to get wet as you continue this hike and get to the top. Well, we're fairly experienced hikers, and so we knew that this was a good goal. It was an admirable goal. But we also knew that we would need to be checking in along the way. So we started to walk, and we made it through. We didn't run into any bears. The incline got very steep at some points. The trail is almost straight up that mountain. It has very little to and fro to the trail. But we were checking in with one another regularly. How you doing? Are you staying hydrated? Are you eating enough? How you feeling? Et cetera, et cetera. Well, we were hiking, and it was beautiful. I put a couple of shots in here to show you just how lovely it was. We got to a point, when you get to the top, or the start of the top, let's call it, you start to run into what is a boulder field, essentially, or a rock scramble. Rocks of all different sizes. It's hard to find your way through because there's no dirt for the trail to be formed, and you're literally climbing over rocks, and it's awkward. This is also the time when you start to get a little woozy, when the ground beneath you starts to do this, because you're not getting enough oxygen to your brain. And so there came a point where Karen said, you know what? I'm good. This is high enough. This is great. And like any good and loving husband would do, I said, wait right here. I got to make it to the top. And the loving wife that she is understands how my crazy brain works. And she said, blessings to you. Go for it. So I went up to the top of this mountain. It was a beautiful view. I was there for, a grand total of 60 seconds. And I walked down, and it wasn't that far. Karen had made it virtually the whole way. It wasn't that far. And you know what I found was that pretty much the same view. But it was even better, because we were together. The moral of the story, we set our sights high. We tried our very best. We adjusted when was necessary. And I can't help but see some parallels to how we think about our building project and campaign to support that project. We set our sights high. Everything that is in those sketches is directly related to a ministry that we can provide, both near or far. We set an ambitious goal. We didn't want to shortchange ourselves. We have been trying and are trying our very best, and we're doing a great job. I am not discouraged whatsoever. We are excited to pursue this dream. And you know what? There might come a time, if we don't make that 10.9, when we need to readjust. And we have all the skilled and most talented people in the world who can do that. The only way that we're going to fail is if we give up, if we stop trying, if we get discouraged, or if we get separated. We can do this. We've already got a great start. Don and Donna are going to come back up. They have a few words of instruction for folks, and then we will head out soon.
As we stand for the final hymn, I would like the people who were in the campaign team, the events team, and the visiting team to come join us front here. They will be getting trays of cookies, and after the benediction, we will be walking out into the narthex and into Memorial Lobby with those cookies, and we will be sharing those cookies with you. So thank you, and enjoy.